going to be a deep dive investigation into potentially why Diddy became the monster that we allegedly all know him as today. So I got like a whole bunch of stuff lined up last night. I got this stuff done. Okay? Okay. So let's just get right into it. Welcome back. Welcome back. All right, so this first article is by People. And I tried to do it in some type of like chronological order, but you have to understand that there's a lot of nuance into this, especially because Diddy has been in this industry for a number of years, longer than I've even been alive. And, that's probably the reality for a lot of people watching this right now. Good morning. Good morning. Let's just get right into it. So, all about Diddy's parents, Melvin and Janice Combs, and what she has to say about the Netflix documentary. So, this investigation will help us understand, why Diddy became a monster, allegedly. Oh, I should be allowed to have an opinion. The behaviors that he exhibits are definitely not behaviors of someone who's not a monster. So, there's that. Alrighty, so let's zoom in here so we can read together. Yeah. Okay, Sean Diddy Combs was born to his parents, Janice and Melvin Earl Combs, in November 1969. He was raised in different parts of New York, although the I'll Be Missing You rapper mostly has memories with his mom and his dad. Um, mostly has memories with his mom after his dad was unalived in 1972. I don't have a lot of memories of my father, he told Revolt TV in 2013. They say you can't miss something you never had. Man, ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? That's only a little ways right. Okay, fair. That's true too. There's definitely been times as I've gotten older that I've missed my father. Aw, that's kind of sad. Following Melvin's death, Diddy was primarily raised by Janice, a model and teacher's assistant, in Harlem and Mount Vernon, New York. After Diddy's arrest in September 2024 and multiple accusations of SA and S trafficking, yikes, against him, which he pleaded not guilty to, Janice defended her son. So I think this is the part that I really want you guys to highlight and really pay attention to. Even after hearing multiple accusations of SA, and I'm just calling it ST, of SA and ST, Janice defended her son. Okay? That is an issue. She defended him after these things. Okay? Now, I just feel like that alone shows us potentially what type of mindset Janice Combs had. And then that also can explain to us a little bit more of allegedly why Diddy turned out to be the way he is. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. Let's keep going. All right. It is heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking to see my son judged, not for the truth. So she's saying he didn't do it, but for a narrative created out of lies, she wrote in a statement shared by her attorney on October 6th, to bear witness what seems like a public lynching. Oh my gosh, to bear witness what seems like a public lynching of my son before he's had the opportunity to prove his innocence is a pain too unbearable to put into words. So she's saying she don't believe none of this stuff, and in fact, they are trying to completely discredit him. That is what Janice, his alleged mama, because now we hear that there's some other lady on YouTube trying to say that she's Diddy's mama. But either way, the woman, Janice Combs, this is what she said, that you guys are publicly trying to humiliate and lie on her son. That is what she's alleging. Even with the alleged evidence, this is a problem. This is a generational cycle. How many moms do you know that just go and let their son do whatever and defend him behind his horrible behavior? How many of us know Janice Combs in real life? Period. Hey, Mark, you said, Sean been crazy since the 90s. Yeah, but You know what we're gonna find out? There's one article I'm waiting for until more people get in here. It's pretty insane. It seems like if this particular article can be believed that we're gonna get to, um, Diddy grew up in some allegedly in some real devious situations. So, but we'll save that a little bit later. All right, so on July 2nd, Diddy was convicted on 2 counts of transportation to exchange in that, okay? Prostitution. I wish I could just say the actual words. It feels so weird having to say these make-believe phrases. All right, but was acquitted of ST and racketeering in October 2025. He was sentenced to 50 months in prison, which I believe totals to about 4 years. So he ain't even really get that much time. He really didn't even get that much time. And there's so many people coming out now alleging that he has not paid them, but he has done this and that. Isn't there a way I feel like at some point, if you just continue allegedly to not pay people, or like if you like, I'm talking about Diddy, but like if someone is actually, and we have proof that they're not paying their employees, shouldn't they be able to go to jail from that? I feel like that should be a jailable offense. Anyway, all right. In the 4-part Netflix docuseries, Sean Combs: The Reckoning, Bad Boy Records co-founder Kirk Burrows claimed that he witnessed Sean slap his mother after a tragic event in December 1991. And that December 1991, that is referring to that stampede that happened at that gym, at that city college thing. So, following the release of Sean Combs' The Reckoning, Janice released a statement claiming the series contained lies and inaccuracies about her son. So, here's the thing, she's standing 10 toes down for Diddy. She doesn't care what he does, people. Allegedly, she is standing 10 toes down. That documentary didn't move her, or at least that's what they're saying. Now, however she feels personally behind closed doors, we might not ever know. But at least publicly, she's not even saying I don't agree with, like, nothing. She's not even saying he may have done something wrong. It's just flat out, these are lies and inaccuracies, like fake news. Come on now, at least take some accountability. Gosh. Okay, so here's everything to know about Diddy's parents, Janice and Melvin Combs. So this is what we were really, really waiting for to try to figure out and piece together how the heck did Diddy become who he is today. Okay, some dude, that's a hilarious name, by the way. He said Diddy Merc. Oh yeah, Diddy Merc Biggie for show. You might, you might be right, allegedly, but people with eyes, thus see. Okay, so Melvin was unalived when Diddy was a child. And I want to be clear here. We have to determine, did he pass on his own or was he assisted in his passing? Because it's a difference. Oh, look, there they go in that white again. They love white. Melvin passed in 1972 when Diddy was 3 years old. Janice originally told the rapper that his father passed in a car accident. But when Diddy got older, he discovered that Melvin was a rug dealer who had been pew-pewed. I saw another article that Diddy actually found out his father was, into that street life when he was at Howard University. Apparently, he looked it up and then he typed in his father's name and then the date he passed. And then somehow from allegedly some like Swedish newspaper or something like that, he found out that his father was a pusher. But I don't know if I actually believe that or not. He probably knew before because I feel like the streets talk and like New York isn't that big of a place. So he didn't know, like maybe his mama didn't tell him, but nobody told him who his daddy was. You know how people love to tell you the sins of the past. People are messy. So you mean to tell me nobody in the neighborhood told Diddy who his daddy was? Maybe not. Maybe not, but I'm just not all the way buying it. All right, welcome everyone. This is my second live. Let's keep going. Diddy only found out, oh, they're getting to it. Maybe it was this article. Diddy only found out his father passed from pew pew fire when he started school at Howard University and looked up his dad's name in the school's library. He shared during a commencement speech in May 2014. My thing is, because I don't know when Diddy went to Howard, but like, did they have computers back then? So, because that's the only way I'm assuming, because why would they just have a document about Diddy's dad at the library? That seems weird to me. So I'm assuming they must have had computers and internet back then, because that doesn't even make any sense to me unless they had a computer. Okay, so when I type, okay, perfect. It was a computer. When I typed in my father's name and the day he passed, I read in the Amsterdam news that he had been unalived in a deal gone bad. So he was unalived because he was being a street pharmacist, allegedly, he said. Right there in that library, I realized there's nothing greater than a mother's love and desire to protect her child. And remember, this came from a commencement speech. So this is something that he told graduates somewhere in May of 2014. All right. In October 2013, Diddy told Revolt TV that his father was a quote unquote hustler, which led him to learn early in life that there were only quote unquote two ways out of the life of a pusher: dead or in jail. Yikes. Thank you for the like, guys. This is my second live, by the way. It's much appreciated. Janice put Diddy through private school. Now, this right here, this private school, this is going to be a whole I didn't have I felt like we wouldn't have enough time to go into this, but I had heard allegedly that the private school that Diddy went to, they got exposed for SA. It's them darn Catholic schools, unfortunately. Okay, so and that could also contribute to why he turned into this monster that we know him as currently. Following Melvin's passing, Janice raised Diddy on her own, prioritizing his education and ensuring he graduated from an all-boys Catholic school. An all-boys Catholic school, and attended college. You feel me? That's a red flag right there. It's sad to say, but an all-boys Catholic school, Lord only knows what happened there, because that school allegedly actually did get caught up for some SA with them boys. So Lord only knows what Diddy went through at that darn school, because I believe that came out in the 80s and Diddy was born in 69. So he either would have just been there, you know what I'm saying? There's a chance that he was there when that SA was occurring. And SA has a really, really, really impact on people. Okay, so the two moved back to Mount Vernon, New York, where Janice was raised, and Diddy went between the suburb and Harlem, where his grandmother lived as he grew up. This is interesting. They don't even mention Diddy's sister. Like, I was yesterday years old when I found out Diddy even had a sister. Comment below or comment in the chat, let me know, did y'all know Diddy had a sister? Because I didn't know that. And you would never know from most of these articles. Or you would like see it, but it's not really highlighted. And there's really not much information on his sister out there. So, we'll protect her privacy and all that. But I just thought that was interesting. In a 2006 interview with Oprah Winfrey, Diddy shared that his mom took on the role of father while his grandmother acted like his second mother. And that shaped the person he became. So his mother and his grandmother had a lot of influence in his life, of course, because they are the ones who raised him. So my mother likes to spend time with me, Diddy said. She loves me so much and she's so proud of me. She almost unalived herself to make sure I went to private schools to expose me to travel. All right. Diddy tried to help his mom date. Now, this video, people, I'm not going to show this video because of the music. But if this is the one when he was like, my mom can touch the floor with her palms and she went flat, I'm pretty sure that was this one. That was sick. So Diddy shared in a 2022 live stream that his mom was single and he'd taken her to the strip club in the past, child. The two joked that they would make a dating show for her, but she's too picky. Me and my mom talk about one thing doing a dating show with her. He said, she's so picky. She's so picky, they don't stand a chance. The rapper went on to say Janice knows how to have a good time. And I'm pretty sure this is also the live where he said that his mama could put her hands on the floor and she said flat, flat. And I felt so disgusted by that. We don't need to go through this. Oh, see, this is the part because this is going to really preface the rest of this. After his arrest, she defended him. After his documentary, she continues to defend him. How many of us in real life know Janice Combs? Okay? We know a Janice Combs who will excuse everything her no good son does and excuse it. And in fact, go to bat for him. Why? Because he's funding her lifestyle. I'm not saying that that is exactly who she is. This is alleged. This is all alleged. But if what people are saying can be believed, I know a few Janice Combs who will just excuse everything their no good son does because he pays their lifestyle. And I'm sure you probably know at least one or two. All right. In the few weeks following Diddy's arrest and not guilty plea, Janice released a statement pleading with the public not to make assumptions about her son's guilt. She expressed that she was profoundly saddened by the allegations against Diddy and asked that he be allowed to prove his innocence in court. Sis, really? Nothing about the victims? Maybe she made a statement about the alleged victims somewhere else, but this is just ridiculous. This is so wild. This is so wild. Janice also referenced a November 2023 lawsuit brought forth by Diddy's ex-singer Cassie, in which she alleged the rapper R-worded and assaulted her. The lawsuit was settled within a day, but in May 2024, CNN released hotel surveillance footage, which was that Intercontinental thing, I believe, in which Diddy could be seen physically attacking Cassie, matching the description of a March 2016 incident mentioned in the lawsuit. And look at this stuff let's read what she has to say, because maybe she holds him accountable. Maybe they're just skewing it. But it seems like Janice is enabling and actually, assisting in this nonsense. That's what it seems like. Yeah, exactly. Wow. Not interested. Exactly. Wow. This is insane. Right? I am not here to portray my son as perfect because he's not. Janice said it in her statement. He has made mistakes in his past, as we all have. See, that's that ish I don't like, but thank you for the like. But that's the stuff I don't like. What do you mean? He's made mistakes in the past, as we all have. We all know that, Janice. I don't know, Janice, if nobody told you, but we all know people make mistakes. But sometimes it's not a mistake, it's a pattern. And it seems like Diddy has a pattern of hurting people. So you're not going to sit up here, Janice, and make us all drink your tea. We don't believe you, girl. He has made mistakes in the past. We all have. But his mistakes seem to be a lifestyle. It doesn't seem to be a mistake. A mistake for him seems to be when he does something good. But this behavior, this alleged SA, that's not a mistake. You don't mistakenly SA multiple people. You don't mistakenly wild out and drag your girlfriend down the hall, kick her. You don't mistakenly do that. You don't mistakenly run out in a bath towel and no clothes on. How unhinged is that? How absolutely unhinged do you have to be to run out of your hotel in a bathrobe and as a grown man and jump and attack your girlfriend? You're not going to sit up here, Janice, and make us, the public, think that that was simply a mistake. That is not a mistake. That is a personality. That is a person. You're not going to make us believe that, Janice. We don't believe you. Okay? Let's keep going. This is so ridiculous. And now we can see potentially why, if she keeps excusing his behavior, why maybe he turned out the way that he allegedly has been perpetuated to be. All right. So he has made mistakes in his past, as we all have. Malarkey, whatever. My son may not have been entire. Wow. Wow. This is so ridiculous. Wow. My son may not have been entirely truthful about certain things, such as denying he has ever gotten violent with an ex-girlfriend when the hotel's footage shows otherwise. So you're admitting that he hasn't been entirely truthful. The difference, he's lied. He lied, Janice. Just say he lied. He hasn't been entirely truthful. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Ridiculous. He lied. He absolutely lied. Just say that. Don't make excuses for this behavior, because people that make excuses for this behavior, that is why it continues, because these people are never used to getting held accountable. This is so ridiculous. Like, are you kidding me? You're standing by this behavior. You know why? Because she doesn't, allegedly, she doesn't see anything wrong with it. And that's the problem. She doesn't see anything wrong with it. So sometimes the truth and the lie become so closely intertwined that it's terrifying to admit one part of the story. Excuse me? What? Especially when the truth is outside of the norm, and is is too complicated to be believed. Are you kidding me? After you saw him drag Cassie, like, I didn't even watch the whole footage because I'm a sensitive soul. I ain't got time to be watching people getting knocked out like that. I never want to see that. So I didn't even watch the whole footage. And after seeing that, you're going to say that the truth and the lie can be so closely intertwined? What about that video was a lie? Does anybody know? Can anybody tell me what about that video was a lie? Was it AI? Was it AI? It didn't actually happen? Come on. What? Her statement continued. This is why I believe my son's civil legal team opted to settle the ex-girlfriend's lawsuit instead of contesting it until the end, resulting in a ricochet effect as the federal government used the decision against my son by interpreting it as an admission of guilt. He's clearly guilty of something. Like, let's just be real. Let's be real. Who do you know would leave a hotel room in a bath towel and no shoes on? Okay? A bath towel and no shoes on, and run out in the hallway to the elevator, beat up someone in the middle of the day, and drag them back to the room. How absolutely unhinged and demented do you have to be? And after seeing that, his mama still defended him. She still defended him. Let's really take a moment to really receive that. After seeing that crazy video, she still defended him. So that is why we're doing this deep dive investigation today. All right. All right. Hello. What is this? It's Little Toilet. That is a hilarious name, by the way. She's lucky she didn't get actually beat down by a real man. What does that even mean? I don't know what that means at all. But maybe you're talking about Janice. I don't know. Hopefully you're not talking about Cassie. I don't know about that one. So we're just going to move on. All right. So Janice was mentioned in Sean Combs's The Reckoning. In the 4-part Netflix documentary, Sean Combs, The Reckoning, Bad Boy Records co-founder Kirk Burroughs claims he witnessed Diddy slap and insult his mother. The incident allegedly occurred in a Manhattan hotel room following a fatal stampede in December 1991. at a celebrity basketball game Diddy promoted in New York City. He didn't know what was going to happen, and I saw Janice question Sean. He said in Combs' The Reckoning, he's going into the music business thing. Oh, he's going into this music business thing. He just left school, and now this extreme tragedy has occurred. She's like, did he make the right decision? Kurt Burrows claimed he saw Diddy put his hands on her, called her a B, and slapped her. He's not looking back. You know what's interesting though? Because Gene Deal claims Gene Deal basically alleged that Diddy set that whole thing up. He said that Diddy asked him not to do security like he was normally planning on doing. He also claims that Diddy asked him, or that some woman that works for Diddy closed the door and locked them kids in there. So Gene Deal is alleging that basically they did this on purpose. And did he change his name to Diddy because it's like, did he do it? And the answer is, according to everyone, yes. Anything they accused him of, it seems like he did it, child. What? Let's see. High toilet. It means she didn't even get beat up that bad. What? What I meant was a real man would give her a real story to tell after she done breathing through a tube. I know you're just trolling, toilet. It's fine. We don't really care about what you're saying, honestly. So, all right. Let's see. Okay, so after the December 2nd release of the series, Janice responded in a statement to Deadline claiming that the documentary contained lies and inaccuracies about her son. Oh, is it because the truth is too close to the lies, Janice? Come on now. We see through you, Janice. How much did Diddy pay you to say this? How much did Diddy pay you to say this? The allegation stated by Kirk Burr slapped me. That's insane. While we were conversing after the tragic City College events on December 28th, 1998 are inaccurate and patently false, Janice said in her statement. The fact, like, I'm not trying to be rude, but the same dude that would run in a bath towel in public and assault someone, it's not hard for me to believe he would slap his mama. That it's not hard for me to believe that he would have the capacity to slap his mama. That's some crazy stuff though. I don't know anybody personally, I think, that would slap their mom, but I feel like if someone would, I would believe Diddy would slap his mama. What about y'all? Do y'all think Diddy would slap his mama? That's not something I don't see for him. I could believe that. That was a very sad day for all of us, she continued. For him to use this tragedy and incorporate fake narratives to further his prior failed and current attempt to gain what was never his, Bad Boy Records, is wrong, outrageous, and past offensive. Later in her statement, Janice requested that these distortions, falsehoods, and misleading statements be publicly retracted. But you know what Netflix said? KMA, because they ain't retracting. Sugar Honey Iced Tea. Netflix feels like the documentary was accurate. And you know what? I didn't see, and perhaps these are not the full statements, but I haven't seen anywhere where Janice has actually held Diddy accountable for even a small thing he did. She hasn't even said maybe he did something wrong. She said, "Oh, we all make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes." That's not a mistake. That's a lifestyle, child. Hold on one quick second. I got to do something really quick. I'm still here though. I just feel like it's a total BS. And I think that Janice is making excuses for Diddy because he's paying for her lifestyle. And she cares more about lifestyle than the victims. Because you know what? Maybe she don't see nothing wrong with it. She don't see nothing wrong with Diddy's behavior. She thinks it's fine. Cassie was paid a lot to stick around. She not innocent either. I mean, That's a hard, I don't want to get down that rabbit hole on this particular episode. So we'll talk about Cassie and Diddy's thing next time. I don't want to go into that today, just because that would take me down a whole new path. I want to make sure this next thing is ready. So this is going to be continuing into the deep dive because Sean Diddy Combs' connection to a famous gangster is part of his family lore. Oh, let me turn my brightness up a little bit. Not all the way because I ain't trying to have my thing die. Okay. This is also really important because allegedly Diddy's father was a pusher. Okay. Allegedly, Diddy's father was a pusher. And apparently, according to Frank Lucas, they worked together. So that's also interesting. So, as the federal criminal trial of Sean Diddy Combs continues, many parts of his past are being revisited. That includes his father's relationship with the late gangster Frank Lucas. Melvin Combs was a pusher who was fatally unalived in 1972 when his son, Sean Combs, was 3 years old. That's not something I glorify, but he was in Harlem. He was doing his thing, selling stuff, selling that stuff. Combs told journalist Touré in an interview 13 years ago. And we all know what that gets you. The only thing, that only gets you, basically, you either in jail or you in ground, period. So in that interview, Combs was clear that his father didn't work for Lucas or any other famed Harlem gangster, but rather he was as big as them. So Diddy is trying to say, like, my dad didn't work for nobody else. My dad was Frank Lucas. My dad was Nicky Barnes. Like, Diddy be lying so much that he could just be like fantasizing a narrative that is not actually accurate. So anything Diddy says now, I just am apt to believe the opposite. So the younger Diddy didn't shy away from his father's history. I'm definitely like him, Combs said, but I'm just doing it in a legal way. Yeah, but you're not paying your artists. Like, what? You're still stealing from people. It's just ridiculous. Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges that include racketeering conspiracy, ST, and transportation to engage in, selling the body in an ongoing federal criminal trial in Manhattan. His mother, he told Touré, he found out what his father was involved in on his own. Like I said before, I just have a hard time believing nobody in their neighborhood told Diddy what his dad was into. And I mean, that's possible. It's definitely possible, but I personally just have a hard time believing nobody told Diddy what his daddy did in that small New York area. As much as people like to gossip, I don't know. I'm just not totally buying it, but maybe it's true. So that was before the internet, and I had looked up my father's name and saw an article about my mother wearing a full-length chinchilla fur to a funeral and taking me, and I was in a mink. Here's the thing. How did he look it up? That was before the internet, and I looked up my father's name and I saw an article. So you're telling me that, because the last article I thought said he looked it up online, but now this article is saying this was before the internet. So you're trying to get me to believe that at Howard University, he just looked his father's name up and they just happened to have an article about his dad. Like, are you serious? Because it was from like Amsterdam. So why would they just have an Amsterdam article? But maybe I'm just misunderstanding. All right. And that was like the story of just the glamour and like the decadence of our family. And like he was a kingpin, of Harlem and how he got assassinated. And Diddy grew up around that time where being a gangster was really, really, really like idolized and stuff. So he probably, when he found out his dad was a gangster, I even heard allegedly he was like really proud to hear about it. Welcome guys. But allegedly he was like really, really proud of the fact that his father was a gangster. And then that's also part of the problem of some pockets of the community, because Some people still glamorize being a gangster, but it's not something that I think we should glamorize as a population. We shouldn't be telling our children that they should be thugs. That's not a good thing. All right. He said he understood why his mother hadn't initially been honest with him about his dad due to where they were living when he was growing up. Combs said he believed he would have become one of the biggest pushers out there, the type of person I would have wanted to follow in my father's footsteps. So he's basically saying if he knew his dad was a pusher, he would have tried to do it too. Melvin Combs had a connection to Frank Lucas, a famous pushing lord in Harlem during his heyday in the 1960s and 1970s. Lucas was famously portrayed by Denzel. All the ladies in the room say, Denzel. I don't even really see what the whole thing, the big deal about Denzel Washington is, but all the seasoned baddies love him. So I had to say it like that. So Frank Lucas was famously portrayed by Denzel in the 2007, it feels so weird to say that, 2007 film American Gangster. He was sentenced to 70 years in prison after being, golly, 70 years in prison after being convicted of federal pushing charges in New York and state charges in New Jersey, but only served 7 after turning informant. Yikes, he said, I ain't going to jail because of y'all, but y'all gonna go to jail because of me. Not he flipped and he went into witness protection program according to the New York Times. Wow. How do you go allegedly from being a kingpin to an informant? Because maybe he was informant the whole time. But you know what? That's another conspiracy for another day. All right. Lucas emerged in later years to share his story. During an interview with Vlad TV, he said he and Melvin Combs were good friends. But you see, there goes Vlad again. How he go from being in witness protection program to being interviewed with Vlad? That's kind of interesting. So this is Lucas talking. We did a lot of business together, Lucas said. Of course, it was not legal business, but we did a lot of business together. So that's what he's saying. Oh, hello. We said 420 Gromy Deserti. I need those for my feet. What you need for your feet? What you need for your feet? What I said that you need for your feet? I might have missed that one. Okay, so Lucas expressed sadness regarding the elder Combs's unaliving. And he said he met Sean when he was a little boy. So Frank Lucas is trying to say basically, like, I've been knew Diddy. You know, I knew his daddy. I knew Diddy. I seen him grow up. Like, I know Diddy. Do y'all know Diddy? His daddy used to bring him over my house, Lucas said. He used to come see me on various businesses, and he would bring him over to my house. Lucas added that about a year prior to the Vlad interview, he had connected with Combs, who was seeking information about his late father. I told him something about his father, but I didn't give him the whole story because he didn't press me, Lucas said. He just asked me casually, and I told him casually. But if he had pressed me, I would have told him the whole story. Combs told Toure that the world didn't know the whole story about him. People don't really know me, the Bad Boy Record founder said at the time. Well, you were darn spickety right, Diddy. You were darn right. People definitely didn't really know you back then. Because what? And that's by design. Who is this person, the Sean Combs, that we don't know, Toure pressed. We have to find out, Combs responded. You have to come along for the ride. We didn't know that coming along for the ride meant that we were going to end up here today. So that is pretty wild. All right, here is a video of Frank Lucas on Vlad. This is like a little clip.
Me and Melvin Combs were good friends.
Okay, because
we were good friends. We were good friends.
you can't really, if you can't understand what he's saying me and Melvin Combs was good friends. We was good friends.
A lot of business together. Of course, it was not a legal business, but we did a lot of business together. And I was sorry to see what happened to him. That shocked the hell out of me. Mm-hmm. And the guy who did it, I'm glad he got what he got. Mm-hmm. Okay, so.
And I know Melvin used to come to your club, the turntable, a lot.
Yes, he did. He come there all the time. Melvin was like a lady man. Yeah, he come there all the time. He come to my club all the time. Yes, he did.
Can you say the name of your club?
The Lord Price Turntable, 52nd and Broadway. I met Sean Combs. I met him when he was a little boy. He used to come over to my house. His daddy used to bring him over my house. He used to come see me on various businesses, and he used to bring him over my house from time to time. But I met Sean about a year ago. It's been a little better than a year ago. He heard I know the father. He wanted me to tell him about the father, so I come over there and I told him something about the father, but I didn't give him the whole story because he didn't impress me. He just asked me casual, and I told him casual, but if it impressed me, I would have told him the whole story.
About his dad?
Yeah. Well, all I know, but I didn't do that because it didn't impress him. If he act like he really wanted to know, he act like it was just another thing, so I had to go.
Right, and you knew him as Sean Combs, not as Puffy or P. Diddy, right?
No, I know Melvin's son. I didn't know his name. I know Melvin's son. I didn't know his name.
So that's Frank Lucas coming out of his own mouth saying that he didn't know that he knew Diddy. You know, he's coming out his own mouth saying he knew Diddy's father, but he didn't know like his name. So I really wanted to get into this, which is Diddy's father, because we've seen Janice. We know that she can touch the ground flat, unfortunately, but we don't really know too much about Diddy's dad. And you know what's also interesting? I couldn't even find too much about Janice. But I tried, so this is what we're gonna cover. All right, and I have a really crazy story about Janice coming up, so you guys definitely want to hear that. But let's just keep going. Welcome, everyone. We're taking a deep dive. So Sean Diddy Combs pushes music, fashion, fragrance, and vodka, but his father pushed a different kind of product until the day one of his gangster friends took him for a ride. Vibe investigates the unaliving of Melvin Combs. And this article came out on December 6th. So this came out 5 days ago. And I think this will give us a little bit more of an understanding, because even though this is about his father who passed away, this was Janice's partner. This is who she selected as the father of her son as well. And this is, who he was. So it's important that we get that understanding. Okay, so a car parked on 106th Street. Wasn't it the 106? Wasn't that the juror number too? You know how I'm a conspiracy theorist. You know how they do numbers. Wasn't jury number 106 the one who was in the documentary? That's interesting. And then why is it 106 and Park? Maybe that's another thing, but whatever. So parked on 106th Street and Central Park West. After taking a look inside the car as the cab sped by, she had the cab drop her off at Small's Paradise. They unalive Melvin, she screamed as soon as she stepped inside the bar. I just came from down by the park and saw him in the car. Somebody got him. Claude Helton, an associate of Melvin, slid off his bar stool and made his way outside. Had to go see what she was talking about, Helton says today. Helton said a few of his partners drove down to 106th Street, 106th. The police had not arrived. No crowd had formed, and it was silent on the block. Helton slowed down just a bit when he saw Melvin's car. Trigger warning, people. Brain matter. Ay. Oh my gosh. Brain matter all over the window, Helton says matter-of-factly. I just looked at the car and said, yeah, they got Melvin. And then we went back to the bar. That's intense. And they said his friend did it. So that's crazy too. Helton has been in and out of prison for most of his adult life. It's hard to envision this older gentleman running the streets of Harlem. Now in his late 60s, Helton has hazy eye and a lined weather face. He's very soft spoken and smiles easily. Today, he sits in an office in South Bronx, clutching a shoebox of mementos and photos of his days in the street life. He agreed to meet and talk about his friend Melvin Combs, which is Diddy's dad, though he often has to throw his head back and close his eyes tight for a long moment to jog his memory of the old days. This is a really well-written article, but some of his stories, the ones that are the hardest to tell, come back in an instant. Helton had been friendly with Melvin for years, ever since Melvin got into the pushing game in the late 60s. But in the weeks before his passing, there had been something in the air. People were talking about Melvin, and it wasn't good. There was a buzz, says Helton. Melvin didn't know, but I did. I heard the whispers. It was his time. So here's the thing. This guy, Helton, who knew Diddy's dad, he knew that Melvin was about to get unalived. That's what he's basically alleging, but he didn't tell him. Because unless I'm misunderstanding, he said Melvin didn't know, but I did. I heard the whispers. It was his time. So he knew that Melvin was going to get popped, and he didn't tell him. That's what he's saying. That's insane. All right. That was January 26, 1972. And Melvin Combs was 33 years old. 5 days later, the former USAF airman was buried in the National Cemetery in Farmingdale, New York. The New York Amsterdam News reported on the service he's survived by his young wife, Janice, who was draped in chinchilla at the rites, and her young son. His young son, Sean Combs, was 2 years old. So was he 2 or 3? Because all the other articles that we read said he was 3. Anyway, that's not that big of a deal, but it does show that, there's propensity for non-truths to be in articles, because you can't be 2 and 3 at the same time. Anyway, Sean John, I didn't know that was his middle name. Sean John Combs was 2 years old. When he was old enough to ask questions, he would be told his father was unalived in a car accident. Well, technically, he was unalived in a car accident. It just wasn't necessarily, what you would normally assume was a car accident. But technically, that is kind of true. Melvin had been pew-pewed at point-blank range in the head. And mind you, this is Diddy's father. This is what happened to him. Helton says the pew-pewer was sitting in the passenger side of Melvin's car. That is insane. The person who unalived him, he knew. See, you got to watch people, man. You got to watch people. Trust your instincts. As people start moving funny, just because you knew them for a while, it doesn't mean anything. Because someone he knew well enough to be in his passenger seat is the one who took him out at point blank range. That's insane. The whispers Helton had heard in weeks before the murder only got louder in the following days. That's crazy. That's crazy. Melvin Combs, the dark-skinned pretty boy with the toothy megawatt smile, that's an interesting way to describe someone, was a co-conspirator, wait a minute, in the case which would send members of his crew to prison. Oh, wow. For up to 12 years. He had been arrested on pushing charges just 2 weeks before his unaliving. So did they think he was going to snitch? What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Welcome, 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 guys. The question on everyone's lips: did Melvin Combs rat out his fellow pushers? And did he pay the ultimate price for doing so? See, here's the thing. It seems like he did pay the ultimate price, because while he was unalived. And then did Melvin Combs rat out his fellow pushers? Well, Frank Lucas did. Frank Lucas did. So it's not hard to believe that Melvin would have done the same thing. And that's why I couldn't be in that industry, because I definitely would snitch. Just as crack replaced heroin, Alpo's AZ and Rich Porter replaced Nicky Barnes and Frank Lucas, and hip hop replaced jazz, disco, and funk, Sean Puffy Combs eventually replaced Pretty Melvin Combs. As young Sean had a question, he needed answers. Who was Melvin Combs? Oh my gosh. This is interesting though, because there's so much that we don't know really about Diddy's family, that even what we do know, like, it leads to so many other questions. Excuse me. Sean's mother would move him and his younger sister Keisha. So this is like the first article that is mentioning his sister Keisha. If you're like me, you didn't even know he had a sister. So anyway, Sean's mother would move him and his younger sister Keisha out of Harlem and into the suburbs. Janice Combs worked as many jobs as necessary to send her son to Catholic school. We might do need to investigate that Catholic school, because they did have allegations of SA at that school in the 80s, which is perhaps around the time when Diddy would have been there, because he was born in 69. Anyway, and to maintain a lifestyle far away from where the truth about his father hung thick in every bar and lounge from Harlem to Yonkers. But there wasn't anywhere Janice could have moved that would have kept the truth, or at least part of it, from her son. Eventually, Sean's search for his father led him to news stories to confirm all the whispers. His father was a pusher. I'm sorry, I don't believe that Diddy didn't know his father was pushing. That's just something I do not believe that, especially because of this other article that I found that I'm going to show later on. I definitely don't believe that at all. And in the documentary, one of his friends said something that no one else really peeped. He said that Diddy's mom used to drive brand new Cadillacs, and she would leave the Cadillacs unlocked and on. Or he might not say unlocked, but she would leave them in the Cadillac while it was running, go inside to do stuff, come back outside, and nobody ever tried to take the car. That is what the friend said in the documentary. So he basically alludes that Janice continued Melvin's work. I'm not saying that that's what happened, but that is what that guy said in the documentary. So I'm just saying, I'm not really believing what these people are putting down yet. Welcome, guys. Welcome to my second live. If you guys can press that like button, let me know. And if you guys want to engage, I wouldn't be upset about that either. But I also understand if you're making your coffee, you're just listening and vibing. I'm just appreciating that y'all are here. Anyway, let's keep going into this deep dive into Diddy, how he became a monster. So he was the ruler, Diddy said in the 2001 book, Bad Boy, The Influence of Sean Puffy Combs on the Music Industry. It was time for a new ruler. That was the life he led. The truth about who his father was and why he was unalived is a bit more complicated. Melvin Combs was born on April 15th, 1939. God dang, that was a long time ago. Wow. He grew up in East Baltimore. Shout out to Maryland. Shout out to the Marylanders around. He grew up in East Baltimore with 4 siblings. After the passing, of his mother, this is sad. Wow. Because this is generational, man. After the passing of his mother when he was 11, the children were on the verge of being parceled out to several different families in the area. But Melvin's aunt Bootsy decided to take all 5 Combs children in. Wow. But that's sad. So Diddy's dad passed when he was young, and Diddy's dad's mom passed. So it's like a generational thing. And so it's so much trauma also. And I don't know what East Baltimore was like back then, but there are pockets of Baltimore right now that you would be very uncomfortable in. So I can only imagine how that would be for a child. And it's sad. So Aunt Bootsy lived in New York City in a brand new housing development called the Patterson Houses. She took a train to Baltimore, collected all 5 kids, and brought them home to the South Bronx. Albert Shamsid Dean lived on the same floor as Melvin. The relationship with Melvin and I goes back to 1951. Oh, wow, says Dean. Today, Dean owns an insurance company based in Yonkers. On a crisp gray December afternoon, he sits in a bustling office, fielding calls and sharing memories of his old friend. So, we're about to hear from one of Diddy's dad's friends. So, this will give us some more insight into who Diddy was and all that type of stuff. We ran track together, played basketball together. We were family, says Dean. Back then in the projects, everyone was like a family. We matured together. Wallace Hanson, who also lived on the same floor as Melvin, still lives in the Patterson homes today. He remembers an energetic, athletic kid who had a thing for fashion. Wow. He definitely had a taste for the high life, says Hanson with a laugh. He dressed pretty sharp when he had the money. He was always dressed better than the rest of us, agrees Dean. He was just smooth like that, always had the extra flair. Perhaps it was his love for fine clothes that gave him a thirst for fast money. See, and here's the thing poverty is a heck of a thing, because when you grow up not having stuff, especially in poverty, like sometimes you feel like the only way to get it is through this fast money route. So, it's that whole generational stuff. And that's why as a community, we got to come together more. And we are as a community, but I'm just saying, like, there's still room for growth. All right. So whatever the reason, Melvin Combs began to slip into the street life by the late 60s. He traded his childhood friends like Albert and Wallace and began running with people who had names like Goldfinger and Flat Top. Claude Helton, one of the first to see Melvin's body after, he got pew-pewed, was also one of the first hustlers to befriend Melvin. All right, so this is where the other stuff about Diddy and his dad start really coming in, that pushing and that lifestyle. And that is why we should not be glamorizing being a thug, period. Okay, when I met Melvin, it had to be about 68 or 69. He was working in a hair salon, says Helton, his eyes closing for long moments as he reminisces. He was cool with this woman named Olive. She messed with a lot of big-time hustlers. She got her hair done at places where he worked, and she introduced us. I liked him right away, Helton says. He wasn't a hard-in. He was flamboyant and suave. I used to say he was part hippie, part hustler, real outgoing. A man, he really knew how to communicate with the ladies. You go out with Melvin, and you gonna have your pick of girls. After hanging out with Helton, Melvin began to notice how his new pushing dealing friends were living. So once he started getting around this dude Helton, he starts seeing, oh, there's another way to live. Like, I don't have to live broke. I can get that fast money. And that's why it's important to watch who you hang out with, because he started getting into that pushing lifestyle because he saw other people were living, quote unquote, well, and were getting fast money. And yeah. And remember, Diddy's dad's mom had passed away. He was raised by his aunt. it's tragic. And so his dad obviously wasn't in the picture, or at least we can assume his dad wasn't there because his dad didn't raise him. And it was back in the 60s and stuff, so there was racism, and he grew up in Baltimore. If you know anything about Baltimore, how it is today, I can only imagine how Baltimore was back in the day. All right, so we had 6 or 7 cars apiece. Yikes, that's crazy, says Helton, going on trips to the Bahamas. My partner Goldfinger had a limousine with a Coke bowl and a safe installed that took us everywhere with a driver in uniform at all times. We were living it up. Helton stops and smiles. It's a closed mouth smile, tingled with what could be regret. See, the thing that I can say about this is if you're growing up in the hood and you're seeing like this anywhere, if you're seeing people living by you that are driving 6, 7 cars, going to the Bahamas, and you're in poverty, you can understand how this could be considered a desirable lifestyle. I can see that. Hold on, let me get some water right quick. I can see how that could be an appealing lifestyle. Like, let's just keep it real. Most black and brown people at this time were struggling, and they're traveling all over the world, but they're also pushing narcotics and hurting the community. So it's not good. Melvin liked our lifestyle, says Helton, shrugging his shoulders. Wasn't long before he started pushing dope. By the end of the decade, Melvin was a whole pusher and a family man, married to Janice. Okay? Sean was born in November of 1969. His sister Keisha followed 2 years later. So Keisha is his younger sister. I think Melvin started really getting money around 1970, says Helton. I remember that's when he got a new Cadillac and sold me his old car. He had a 68 Thunderbird too. Pretty car. Blue with a white top. Only 2 of them, all in Harlem. So the thing is also, Melvin, they said, was a pretty boy, and Melvin can get the ladies, right? There are a lot of times where people get jealous even. So people might have been jealous of Melvin. They said he could dress. He was a pretty boy. He had a car that there were only 2 of in the city. Like, he was pushing. So people might have been jealous of what he was doing and decided to take him out. But we're going to see, because they also said maybe he got taken out because he was a snitch. Who knows? We weren't there. Let's keep going. So although Melvin was by all accounts a devoted father who doted on his young son, he was a risk taker. And he went from being a low-level pusher to running with a completely different crew. All right, we'll see what that means. I think I gave him stuff 3 or 4 times, says Helton, who served more than 20 years locked up on an assortment of charges. He shakes his head slowly. But then when he went and hooked up with Willie Abram and them, ... Why is the article like this? What's going on? Okay, I'm going to press refresh and we'll get back down to it. This is some really, really crazy stuff, because we're getting a real look into what the 70s, pushing lifestyle was like. Like, this is stuff that you see in those movies. This is literally stuff that you see in those movies. Okay, it's coming back now. We're having, the Wi-Fi just went slow. Look, the rest of the article. What is going on? Let me try, hold on 1 second. Let me do like this. See if I can just refresh Chrome. Okay, so let's get back down to where we were in the article, because this is where we're getting to the part where we see why Diddy's dad got popped. Okay, here we are. All right. Willie Abram. So who was this guy? Okay. He was the mastermind of a different type of pushing ring that reportedly brought in $5 million a year at the beginning in the mid 60s, distributing 200 kilograms throughout New York and New Jersey. Now, we have to remember, okay, $5 million is a lot of money now, but $5 million in the 1960s, we don't even know how much that would be right now. That would have to equate to over at least 25 million, at least, because the prices, you could probably get gas for 5 cents back then. So we really have to understand $5 million is a lot now, but $5 million back in the 1960s was a lot of money. Like, the buying power of that was insane. Don't get me started on inflation. All right. According to news reports, Abraham had an Italian connection. He allegedly got his, stuff from Alphonse Sacas and Benjamin Castazzo, members of the mob. Okay, Abraham's crew consisted of nearly a dozen men and women. His principal associates were Robert Hoke, Earl Holder, and his ex-school teacher, Mount Vernon. Oh, and an ex-school teacher from Mount Vernon named Walter Grant. Although reports of that time are not specific about Melvin's rank in the organization, he was clearly more than just a rank of file street pusher, even if his ruler, quote unquote, his son, later believed he was. I don't understand what the ruler thing means. I'm a little bit confused on that. Oh, you said low vibrational BS. Don't recommend this channel. Oh, whatever. You felt compelled enough to comment. So, hey, you must be rocking with it. Anyway, so before he began running with Abraham and his crew, Melvin met and befriended no one other than Lucas, who was more memorably portrayed by Denzel Washington in the 2007 film American Gangster, who liked him immediately and was briefly in business with him. Can't remember where I first met Melvin, he added. He might have been at some nightclub, but we became partners before I even started going overseas. We did a few things together. I knew Melvin very well. Soon, Melvin was solely working with Willie Abrams' crew. With the organization, there were several high-level partners operating as wholesale distributors selling stuff to other dealers. Others operated a cutting and packing mill, preparing product for street dealers. Abrams' crew was tight-knit. Some of the girlfriends and wives were involved directly with the operation, managing the mill's girls, arranging meetings, and even being directly responsible for moving product. But Janice had nothing to do with her husband Melvin's business. She was a polished young woman who sponsored fashion shows in Harlem. One of her shows, Elegance in Autumn, offered a French poodle as a door prize, and the name Mrs. Melvin Combs appeared in several society pages in the Amsterdam news throughout the 60s. Interesting. I will say I heard that his mom did some other stuff, but you know what? I'm not going to go there just because I don't want that kind of smoke at all. But that made me think, were they cleaning money? You know what I'm saying? But that's none of my business. Oh my gosh, thank you for the likes, guys. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Okay, but like most hustlers, Melvin also had a ride or die chick on his side. Wait a minute. And his name was Cassandra. Was Diddy trying to be his dad? Because Cassandra and Cassie, is it her name, Cassandra? A then 22-year-old Cassandra Sullivan was listed in court documents as Melvin's girlfriend, who was allegedly involved in the operations throughout charges against her, though the charges against her were later dropped. I'm only going to say this because I forgot who it was. There was some man who said he got with his girlfriend his wife, only because she looked like Aaliyah. So people do this. So he might have selected Cassie specifically because her name was Cassandra and he wanted to be like his dad. You never know. It's amazing how people's minds will, you know, shift. Oh, see, look, a little light skinned girl, says Helton, who was not part of Abram's crew but stayed close to Melvin. I remember her. Cute girl. But Melvin had lots of girls. We all did. But so back when all you needed was penicillin to clear something up. What? Wow. Alrighty. So Melvin was officially living the fast life. He was outfitted in furs and suits on a daily basis, drove his Cadillac around town, and dipped in and out of the local Harlem spots with his girlfriend or wife, depending on the time of the day. You brought your wife and kids out during the day, explains Helton, and then you bring your girl out at night. Hustlers either have very bad memories or just don't care. Because it's a rare dealer who escapes the consequences of a career in crime, Melvin's crew would be no exception. In late 1971, after wiretaps had been installed on the home phone of many of the crew members of Willie Abram, Earl Holder, Robert Hoke, and Walter Grant were all arrested. All would later be convicted of violating Abuse Prevention and Control Act of 1970 and giving sentences ranging from 10 to 20 years in federal prison. Wow. And don't get me started on that. All right. So a month later, Melvin was arrested in an apartment he kept in Yonkers. According to news reports, police found him with a large quantity of narcotics, a revolver, and a large amount of cash. He was unalived 2 weeks later. And this is where the difficult question needs to be asked. Melvin's childhood friends and business associates look away, scratch their heads, and shrug their shoulders when asked the obvious question. Did Melvin snitch on his crew after he got arrested? It seems more than just a coincidence that he was unalived while sitting in the driver's seat of his own car so soon after he was arrested. He had been named as a co-conspirator in the Abram case. While none of the news reports make any mention of cooperation on Melvin's part, it's possible that he may have spoken to authorities after his arrest about what he knew. And even if he didn't, it's possible that he could have been unalived to avoid what he might say when dealt with legal issues. Yikes. That's BS, says Frank Lucas. Melvin wasn't that kind of guy. No way. He wasn't saying ish. Lucas, who had gone away by the time Combs was unalive, said when he heard the news, he was devastated. They did the wrong thing when they unalived Melvin, Lucas says. If I had been around, a whole lot of people would have got hurt over that one. Yikes. Oh, this is so sad. This is like the whole issue with that lifestyle is because it's always people avenging, revenging. Like, not only does that industry, like those products just hurt the community in general, but that lifestyle that it comes with, it's like a war. And there's so many casualties because it has a ripple effect when a male or a husband or a dad or a father is unalived, when a mom is unalived, it has a ripple effect on their children that you'll see in generations. This is how Diddy became who he was. His father's choices rippled into Diddy's life. That's why it's so important that we today are very aware of our behavior because our actions have actual consequences. It's insane, okay? When I asked if he knows who's responsible for the crime, Lucas just grunts. I ain't giving no names, but whoever it was, I heard he got it back. Back in the Bronx, Claude Helton exhales. He stares out the window and then runs his hand over his face, lifts his cap and replaces it. He's not used to talking about the past. He's not used to being interviewed. He loves to reminisce, but not like this, not with the recorder on. But old stories stick with you, and eventually they are told. That is so true. I know who unalived Melvin, he says, his face weary but relieved as he speaks on Melvin's unaliving publicly for the first time. He was a friend of mine, friend of Melvin's too. So this guy just said Melvin's friend was the one who unalived him in his car, point blank range. In his car, point blank range. Thank you for saying hi. What's if SAR reality? Welcome everyone. This is my second live, by the way. Anyway, he just said that Diddy's dad's friend is the one who murked him. For those who missed it, Diddy's father was murked in his car. And this is insane. Point blank range, his friend. Man, that's why it's important to pay attention to your instincts. You don't know who's who. All right. So Helton was sent to Lewisburg Federal Prison in 1972 on a, blank conviction. There he met with his old friend, Walter Grant. Grant was the ex-school teacher from Mount Vernon who was Willie Abrams' right-hand man. Walter told me that he parked his car on 106th Street and Central Park West and then told the cab to go to Gold Lounge a little further downtown. He then called Melvin and told him to come pick him up. Oh my gosh. Melvin had no idea what was about to happen. Melvin picked him up and Grant told him to drive him to his car, told him to pull up and park right behind his car. Told me he took out his piece and said, Melvin, you got this coming to you. What? And that was it. Unalived him, dead. Got out of the car, got into his own car, and pulled out. That is insane. That is totally insane. According to Helton, Grant was convinced that Melvin had either ratted out his crew after the arrest or planned to. Frank Lucas believed that was just chatter about Melvin's... Wait. Frank Lucas believed that just the chatter about Melvin's arrest led to his unaliving. I think someone shot their mouth off about something and didn't know what they were talking about. People just imagining things and talking crazy got him unalived. I read papers about it, says Wallace Hanson, Melvin's childhood friend. I was hurt, but I wasn't surprised. That was the life he chose. Exactly. And that is why it is so important that we do not teach our boys, especially, and our girls. We should not be teaching them that the gangster life is a good life. Because when you choose that lifestyle, other things can happen to you. It's like you're choosing to go. It's unfortunate and it's sad. Albert Dean, his former neighbor, saw Melvin a few months before his passing. He was on 7th Avenue near Gold Lounge. He said, I'm having a birthday party. Come in and have a drink. But I was Muslim then, selling my Muhammad Speaks. Told him I couldn't do that. So he said, here's my number. I got a place in Yonkers. Call me so we can get together. I never saw him again. Hanson blames Melvin's easygoing personality for his violent unaliving. He was too trusting, he says. He trusted those guys in that field. You can't do that. That gets people so many times. That's gotten me too. Just projecting and thinking that people are as trusting as you are. But like in that lifestyle, in that industry, you got to have your head on a swivel. You got to have your head on a swivel, period. But especially if you're pushing narcotics, you're living that gangster life, you got to be really paying attention. That's why it's just best not to enter that lifestyle at all. Janice Combs remained in Harlem for several years before relocating to Mount Vernon. According to Helton, Walter Grant was unalived in Mount Vernon years after Melvin's passing. While Diddy discovered the truth about his father's past as a pusher, it is unknown if he ever heard the rumors surrounding his father's passing. Both Diddy and his mother declined to comment for this piece. I would have wanted to hear what they said about this. That's interesting that they decided not to, because Diddy, before this, all he wanted to talk about was how much of a gangster his father was. But suddenly now we're seeing allegedly what type of gangster his father was, and he don't want to say it. But, perhaps it's because of, all the other stuff that's happening right now, which makes sense. All right. But as he began to climb up the music industry ranks, he continued to search for more details about his mysterious father. And at the same time, his father's childhood friends and business associates began to find out that Melvin's boy had gone to do big things. Albert Dean went on to raise a family in Westchester County. His sons, Jaquan Dean and Darren Dean, would go on to found Rough Riders. I think that's a label too. When his sons were new in the business, somebody told Albert that Melvin's boy was also in the music industry. Dean arranged to meet Diddy, who was then working at Uptown Records. I came to talk to him about my sons, but of course, Sean wanted to know everything I could tell him about his father as well. I told him everything I could remember. It was clear that he had a real hunger for any information. I remember he was even carrying about this 8x11 picture frame of his dad in his bag. He pulled it out and showed me. So I'm not reaching by saying perhaps he selected Cassie because she was light-skinned and her name was Cassandra. And that is what this guy remembers. And that is what he would have told Diddy. So it would be interesting to know if that was actually true, because it also said that at that same part when I was talking about Cassandra, Melvin's girlfriend, Cassandra, it said that you take your wife out in the daytime and you take your girlfriend out at night. So he took his dark-skinned wife. Listen to me here. Diddy was trying to recreate his dad. He took his dark-skinned wife, because Janice is dark-skinned and Melvin's was the wife with the kids. So he had a wife and kids, took them out in the day, and then Diddy's dad took his light-skinned girlfriend, Cassandra, out at night. Diddy had his quote-unquote wifey, Kim Porter, who is dark-skinned, out in the day, and his girlfriend, Cassandra, who was light-skinned, out at night. And he apparently used to carry this guy, the same guy who would have told him that story, is mentioning that he carried a photograph of his dad in his bag. It's not far off to stretch and say that perhaps Diddy was trying to become his dad. And why would he try to become his dad? That is another question. And I'm learning more about the human mind, but I feel like that's a logical conclusion. So Claude Helton put the connection together between Melvin and Diddy while he was locked up in the mid-1990s on a parole violation. Me and this young boy got to talking, he says, and he was telling me about a guy named Combs. Now, that's a rare name, so I instantly thought of Melvin. When I got out, I saw him on television, and of course, I knew right away who he was. That boy looks just the same as he did back in Harlem. When his son was born, Melvin would often have his baby boy with some of him at the hot spots in Harlem. 3 places you could see Melvin with Sean back then, Helton says: the Gold Lounge, Shalimere, or Smalls. He'd be holding him and showing him off. What? When he got a bit older, he'd be standing right with him, trying to walk. The boy looked just like his daddy. So Melvin, Diddy's dad, brought him to lounges and clubs. I guess that was legal back then, or maybe Melvin really just did have that weight like that. Like maybe he really did, because how do you bring a baby into a club? Granted, it was a different time back then, but I don't think you were ever legally allowed to bring babies into clubs. Okay, Puffy got this video, the one he made for Biggie, says Helton. He's dancing around singing that Every Breath I Take song. Every time I see that video, I think of Melvin. That's him right there. He would do the same exact dance when he'd be in the nightclubs, throw his hands up and make the same exact face. It's crazy. Everything about them is exactly the same, from their style to their smile. That's what I'm saying. There is a world where Diddy specifically tried to mimic his daddy's life. You said you need to try and understand the mind sweating under these bags. I don't know what. Okay, let's keep going. So, dang it. Oh my gosh, did it? No, the article moved. Okay, this is such a long article too. Hold on. Let's get back to where we were. We're almost done. Okay. So Diddy's dad used to take him to the club. That's insane. I didn't know babies were allowed to be in the club. Puffy got this video. Okay, this exact same. Melvin Combs' brief run in the streets will never be made into an American gangster style biopic if it were for his son. Melvin's story, like many others before him, would be little more than a footnote. But the well-coffeed pretty boy with his arms held high, foot shuffle dance lives on in the son he left behind. One can only wonder what Melvin would make of his son's success, and also his son's, all the other stuff that allegedly his son did. Like, let's not gloss over, the allegations. When asked if he may have traded in the street life as he got older, Frank Lucas laughs a long body laugh. Who, Melvin? Heck no. Much as Melvin loved money, Lucas laughed again. The way he loved money, he'd have just as much money today as his son got, maybe more. So, maybe Diddy was, his dad type thing. So this next article we're going to read is going to be the last one we're going to cover today. But this one, which one is it? Because it was this one. Because this one I thought was pretty wild. Because they're alleging in this article that Diddy's mom is the one who originated the FOs. So let's get into it. Get out of here, error. Okay, a childhood friend of Sean D. Combs says in the Peacock documentary, Diddy, The Making of Bad Boy, that the disgraced mogul's mother, Janice Combs, threw parties throughout his young life that desensitized him to S. Okay? A lot of times, people that are really, really traumatized growing up, they turn into monsters. And SA is one of the most traumatizing things that can happen. Janice Combs did not respond to the documentary's production request for comment. Newsweek had contacted representatives for Sean Combs and Janice Combs by email for comment. Peacock releases documentary. So this is the part that the person says that crazy behind stuff, and we'll see if it's true, I guess. So Diddy, The Making of the Band, hit Peacock on Tuesday. It includes interviews with dozens of people throughout Combs' life, including multiple childhood friends, professional colleagues, his former bodyguard, an intern, and a makeup artist for his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. Combs, 55, is in jail in Brooklyn awaiting a May ST trial. He is also subject to at least 30 lawsuits accusing him of crimes. Combs has denied all wrongdoing. Peacock document sheds lights on Diddy's mom's childhood. Tim Dog Patterson said he and his mother, now listen to this, guys. You don't want to miss this part, because this is where it gets really sick. And then also you can, it just shows how Healing needs to happen. Healing needs to happen in our communities because this is not okay. So Tim Dog Patterson said he and his mother lived with Janice and Sean Combs in their Harlem home. Patterson thinks Combs's alleged troubles with, ex goes back to childhood. On the weekend, we partied in the house. We did that a lot. Patterson said he was around all types of alcohol. He was around reefer smoke, addicts around the house, lesbians, homosexuals. He was around pimps and pushers. That was just who was in our house. This is what his friend, his childhood friend, who claims to have lived with Diddy as a child, says was in their house all the time. That was the parties. People who, you see that word right there? That was who was in his house, according to this guy named Patterson, who claims to have lived with Diddy and his mama. Okay? Patterson continued, people that attended the parties were from Harlem, from the streets. At night, it wouldn't be a thing to, listen to this. At night, it wouldn't be a thing to mistakenly walk into bedrooms and you got a couple in there, booty out. Can you believe that? As a child, he's saying, because he was there, allegedly, he's saying that as a child in his and Diddy's childhood home, you could walk into a room and see somebody there getting down. That's traumatizing, if that's true. Because we weren't there, we don't know. This is alleged. That's what we were privy to. This is what we were fed. Was it desensitizing us? I'm sure it was. Were we aware of it? No. That was just Saturday night, Patterson said. Oh my gosh, you said, seems like a fun place to be. Well, but not a fun place for children. If you want to be grown and freaky, that's on you. I don't really care. But that's not a place for a child, not at all. What people are saying. So Dr. Carol West, a domestic violence and ST expert in the doc, if you grow up in a very sexualized environment, that's going to shape their template in terms of what are appropriate boundaries and what's acceptable. When you have a lot of unresolved trauma, the trauma doesn't go away just because you have all the access to wealth and power and no quadrille. So the trauma is there, still unresolved, and you have more resources to do damage with. Exactly. Just because you have money, it does not mean that the traumas you experience just go away. You now, unfortunately, just have the ability and access to do worse because you have access to more things. Thank you for the like. It's pretty wild. And so if this article specifically can be believed, Diddy allegedly grew up in a place where there were FOs. If this can be believed, Diddy grew up in a house with FOs. That's insane. If that is true. Because we were not there and this is alleged. So Combs' legal team to Newsweek in early January. These documentaries include unchecked claims and provide flat platforms for baseless conspiracy theories without accountability or evidence. In the case of the Peacock documentary in particular, their motivations and credibility of those being interviewed must be questioned. Many claim to have knowledge but lack any connection to the truth, while their wild, unfounded theories are cut and sensationalized to appear as factual. What's next? Okay, so that's about that. Oh, we have a little bit more time. I thought that was going to take longer. But the fact of the matter is, Diddy's alleged childhood friend that was friends enough to live with him growing up alleges that every Saturday, Janice hosted FOs. That is what he just said. It doesn't mean it's true, but if that is true, that is a really a good example. That's base evidence for how he would have turned into a monster if that's the case. Because if it just makes you wonder, if this is true, did anything happen to him? If you're in a house full of under the influence adults who are having an FO every Saturday, how protected are you in that situation? So this one I also wanted to talk about before we go quickly is 7 disturbing details left out of The Reckoning, because now we did a whole deep dive, and so now we understand, according to these different articles, how potentially Diddy became who he was. So everything makes sense now. If you missed it, guys, welcome. If you missed it, you're going to want to catch it. You're going to want to watch the replay, because we now understand, I feel like, how Diddy became this monster. Okay, so now let's go into some things that perhaps the documentary did not check, because now we know how Diddy allegedly became a monster. Now let's discuss what he potentially also did as the monster he became. So number 1, Diddy details about the freak-offs that did not involve Cassie. Exactly. That's what I was saying. Details about the FOs that did not involve Cassie. What about all the people that... Exactly. So when Combs was indicted on the charges of trafficking, racketeering, and transporting of, whatever, in September of 2024, prosecutors allege that he used his business to facilitate FOs. The prosecutors described the events as an elaborate and produced, performances that Combs allegedly arranged and coerced other people to participate in. They further claimed that Combs would involve women to participate with male workers, and that they would last days with heavy use. Now, what about all those celebrities that said that there was no party like a Diddy party? What about them? Where were they at? Combs allegedly recorded some of the performances with and without the knowledge of people involved. Prosecutors wrote in the indictment. While the docuseries didn't go into detail about Combs' alleged FOs, it included commentary from the male worker, Clayton Howard, who alleged that he participated in several FOs with Combs' then girlfriend, Cassie. Howard went into detail on his time with Combs and Ventura and alleged that he had with her while the rapper orchestrated her positioning and timing. However, Howard didn't elaborate on the other alleged FOs in which Cassie was not involved, and only spoke about the 3 times that she participated. The docuseries did not discuss any of the FOs Combs allegedly hosted without Cassie. Exactly. The second thing that the doc didn't inquire about or go into was Kim Porter's passing and the theories that surfaced as a result. So I ain't got time to read let's just see. So in the docuseries, several people discuss Combs' complicated relationship with women. And if you were here earlier, if you watched the replay, you'll see that I now have a theory, and I'm going to make a separate video just about that Diddy was really trying to recreate his father. I'm going to do more research into that, though, but that seems to be accurate, but that's neither here nor there. So let's just keep going. We've seen so many hurtful and false rumors circulating about our parents, Kim Porter and Sean Combs' relationship, as well as our mother's tragic passing, that we feel we need to speak out. They wrote in an Instagram statement at the time. The siblings added, so this is Diddy's children's talking. When it has been incredibly difficult to reconcile how she has been taken from us too soon, the cause of her passing has long been established. There was no foul play. Grief is a lifelong process, and we ask that everyone respect our request for peace as we continue to cope with her loss every day. I feel so bad for those children, especially the twins, because who's raising them now? I know they're kind of adults, but still. So 3, this is the part. Diddy's annual white parties and who attended. Because how do we know those white parties weren't FOs? Although the docuseries examined how Combs started as a party promoter and spent plenty of time and money on the parties throughout his success as a music mogul, it didn't go into details exactly with his star-studded white parties. When Combs was at the peak of his fame, he started hosting white parties around 1998 to 2009. The parties often took place over the summer at his house in the Hamptons, and attendees strictly encouraged to wear all white clothing, per the New York Times. Each year, the parties grew bigger with singers, actors, athletes, businessmen, and more. Some of those celebrities included Justin Bieber, Jennifer Lopez, Leonardo DiCaprio, Beyonce, Jay-Z, and Donald Trump, among others. His final party was held in 2009 in Beverly Hills, California. A featured featured walkers, models, and swimming pool swings, per the publication. After Combs's 2024 arrest, his representatives denied that there were any wrongdoings at his white parties. I don't know. I kind of feel like the white parties were FOs, but hey, I could, I wasn't there. I could be totally wrong about that. It's disappointing to see the media and social commentators twist the cultural moments into something that they weren't, the statement read at the time, shaming celebrities who attended, taking video clips and photos out of context, and trying to link those events to the allegations is simply not true. All right. Cassie's shocking testimony during the trial. Yes, this part, I'll say trigger warning, okay? Because yeah. In May 2025, Ventura testified during Combs' trial and spoke out about their alleged abusive relationship and her participation in the alleged FOs. During her emotional testimony, she claimed that she didn't feel like she could say no. See, she didn't feel like she could say no. I understand why she wouldn't feel she could say no. Are you kidding me? She further alleged that he recorded her as blackmail. Oh my gosh. And added that she took substances to disassociate and stay away from the hours of the FOs took place. That is horrible. That is absolutely horrible. I would take pills all the time. If he ran out, we would call friends pushers, he said. For me, it was disassociative and numbing. I can't imagine doing any of that without a buffer. It was emotionless. I didn't want to have with strangers. Cassie was the prosecution's star witness, and she testified for 4 days, although her testimony was not recorded for the public, as much of what she said was written and shared. Sean Combs' The Reckoning, Combs' trial, and his charges but it did not share Cassie's testimony or how it impacted the jury. The singer also did not participate in the docuseries. Yeah, they left a lot out. I was also shocked that they left this part out. That Kid Cudi's alleged that Diddy firebombed his car. They didn't even say anything about that. Now, they did talk about how she alleged that, he kidnapped her, but they definitely did not talk about this, which I was shocked about too. So the Netflix docuseries briefly mentions Combs' contentious relationship with Kid Cudi and examines one scenario in which Combs allegedly broke into Cudi's home after he found out he was talking to Cassie. Combs' then assistant Clark testified during his trial and claimed in the docuseries that Combs took her at Pew Pew Point in 2011 to drive to Combs' home in Los Angeles. She alleged that he forced himself into Cudi's house with a pew pew, but Cudi was away with Cassie at the time. However, the docuseries left out Cudi's testimony at Combs' 2025 trial, where he discussed a Molotov cocktail attack on his blue Porsche outside of his home in January 2012, shortly after he began dating Cassie while she was broke up with Combs. Prosecutors alleged that Combs was behind the attack, while Ventura and Cudi also said they believed the rapper was responsible. Cassie even claimed Diddy threatened to blow up Cuddy's car around the same time. He has vehemently denied any involvement in the firebombing. And then people say, well, why didn't Cassie leave? Why didn't she leave earlier? Why did she stay so long? Are you kidding me? People say, oh, Cassie's guilty. Guilty of what? Being a prisoner? Guilty of what? Idiots. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that, but it's true. What was Cassie guilty of? Being a prisoner? Come on now. All right. Number 6, Diddy's life after 2025 trial and his current status as a prisoner. Some people don't believe he's in jail for real, for real. After exploring Combs' trial, the documentary featured 2 members of the jury explaining their decision to acquit Combs of ST and racketeering charges and convict him on 2 counts of transportation to engage in, thank you for the like. It also added a few lines of text explaining how Combs was sentenced to 50 months in prison. That's it, which included a year of time already served and $500,000 fine. At the time of the docuseries premiered on December 2nd, Combs was in the midst of serving his sentence at FCI Fort Dix on a military base in New Jersey. He had previously been behind bars at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn before he was transferred in October. While the docuseries strayed away from sharing an update on Combs' life as a prisoner, people previously learned